こんばんは。あ誰かいますか？まだ誰もいない。なんかですね、これ後で見るかどうか分かりませんが、なんとなく日本語で話したい気分になっちゃって。あ、違う、ちょっと来た。あ、こんばんは。Hello, hiya. わ、12人も来ました。すごい。こんばんは。Hello everyone. 花です。It's me, 花。おはようございます。あ、日本おはようございますですね。結構早いですね。ごめんなさい。なんか先ほどまでお友達がいましたが、帰っちゃって、私はなんだろう、すごい、あんまり生配信したいっていう気持ちにはあんまりなりませんが、今なぜかなりましたので、してみようかなと思いました。Hi everybody, hello. Um, so I'm doing this a bit spur of the moment. I just, for whatever reason, maybe this is better. Is that better? Okay. For whatever reason, I felt in the mood to go on live, even though I never feel that, but I thought like if I feel like it, I may as well do it. Should I turn on my ring lights? Or hey Google, turn on the ring light. No, no. That just turned on the lights in my house at home. おはようございます。Hey Google, turn on the ring. Damn it. I want to turn on my ring light, but my Google won't understand me. How is everybody? 皆さんお元気ですか? Hello, how are you? I'm good, thank you. How are you? I'm very well. Um, oh, that's kind of better. I mean, it's just my background. I'm going to close my curtains because it's going to look like my whole room is lit up a lot and people will be like, what is she doing? Sorry, I'm still here. I'm just moving things around. Hi, Ruby. I remember you from my Instagram DMs. I hope you're doing well. Hi, everybody. What should we talk about? 皆さん何か面白いことありますか？おはようございます。なんか生配信始めちゃったけど、全然話すことないです。I had my first vaccine. ワクチン接種しました。ちゃんと。1回目のワクチン接種しました。この間。で、全然、その後ちょっとだけ眠かったが、それ以外全然大丈夫でした。There's 40 people here. Does anyone have any questions? Fun things to talk about? I don't really know how people, how people do like streaming on Twitch. I've always been curious about that, but I don't really play. I do play video games, but I don't know how to set it all up so that I could stream video games. And then there are people who don't play video games who are on Twitch. But I don't watch Twitch, so I don't know what people like to see on Twitch. Here it's 11:30 p.m. 会社行きますか？会社頑張ってください。お仕事頑張ってください。こんにちは。おはようございます。Yeah, here it's 11:30. So, I just saw one of my classmates for the first time in a year and a half. I haven't seen him since before the pandemic and since before I went to Japan even. So I haven't seen him since November 2019. Byron, I remember you. Hello. Thank you very much. Well, I'll think about it because the thing is, I don't watch Twitch, so I don't know what people like to watch on Twitch, so I don't even know what the possibilities are of things I could do on Twitch. Because I like making content, but I struggle to find the time to film things and edit things. And I think streaming seems, I know that it's not less effort. I know that streaming is a lot of effort. But sometimes I wonder about it. So I thought I would do a nama haishin. But the only thing is, my videos, because I'm able to translate them afterwards, they're accessible to a wider audience. But if I do a stream, I have to switch between Japanese and English. 英語と日本語両方話しますから、全然どっちでもコメントしてください。People will watch anything as long as the vibes are there. I will think about it. I feel like I could be good background noise. And also, I've really been wondering about using streaming as a way of getting myself to concentrate. Like, I feel like people will just watch me work, and I can occasionally be like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm looking up this word, I'm translating this. And maybe people would find that interesting. I don't know. Because Ruby has just asked, can I share the type of classes I take for my Japanese major? At the moment, so this year, the first year of my master's has just finished. And this year I have taken, so the compulsory classes are Japanese language, and I did research methods, which is basically, so the research methods class is for the whole of the social sciences and area studies department. So not just Japanese, but for everyone. And so that's about like quantitative research methods and qualitative research methods. And then I did, so the ones that I chose to do are classical Japanese texts. So I read Tale of Genji and Pillow Book and translated them and wrote commentaries about them. And I did Japanese linguistics, which was the history of Japanese and the structure of Japanese, two different parts, which was essays. And then I did Old Japanese, which is like 8th century Japanese translation, but that was just for fun. So I didn't actually have an exam in that. I just took that class as an extra. And so next year I'm doing a different linguistics option that's called Boku wa Unagida, which is reading this very famous book of Japanese linguistics called Boku wa Unagida, which kind of means I am an eel, but it also could mean please could I have the eel, or it could mean I fish for eel. And that's kind of the point of the book is I guess the meaning of blank wa blank da as a structure, and there's a whole book about that. So that's what I'm doing next year. And next year I'm also doing more Japanese language, and I'm writing my thesis, and I have to do an advanced research methods class, which means that I do something from somewhere else in the university. So I think I'm going to take a sociolinguistics option. Japan is, as far as I'm aware, not open for tourists currently. I don't really know. I've been trying to keep up with the situation in Japan, but I don't totally know like what's doable and what's not doable. I know that you can go to Japan and quarantine there, but I suspect that you need to be on like a certain visa, or you need a certain reason for going there. I don't think you can go there as a tourist yet. Obviously the Olympics are happening, but you can't go and watch the Olympics as a foreigner, so I suppose you can't go as a tourist at the moment. I actually have got flights to Japan for next March with my school friends, which we kind of all bought these tickets. We found cheap flights from the UK to Japan, return flights for March of next year. And so as like a spur of the moment, we've decided to do a girls trip to Japan next March, but we have actually no idea if that's going to be doable or not. But I really hope it will be, because by then we will all be vaccinated. Hello, ohayou gozaimasu. By then we'll all be vaccinated, and one of my friends in that group is already in Japan. She lives in Miyazaki. So I hope I can go back. I really do. I really hope so. You haven't had the vaccine yet? Please, when you get a chance to get the vaccine, please get it, because it's good for everybody, not just yourself. So the hiragana song is one of my most popular videos, and I don't think many people know this, but I can't even watch the hiragana song myself. because it's me when I was 15, and I'm very embarrassed of it. But I understand that it's brought a lot of people a lot of joy, and it's coming up on its 10-year anniversary. I think it's 9 years this year. Maybe next year is its 10-year anniversary. And I always said I would never do a remake of it, but maybe I'll do it like a 10-year tribute to it or something. I haven't planned anything yet, but maybe. But I'm very glad that people enjoy it. I'm studying hiragana and hoping after I'm done, I can make conversation, but I don't understand how grammar works. Can you explain? So I think Japanese grammar is difficult for people who speak European languages, including English, because it basically works backwards. So in English, we are a subject verb object language. And what that means is we say I eat an apple. I is the subject, eat is the verb and object, and apple is the object. But in Japanese, you say watashi wa ringo o taberu, because it is a subject object verb language. I being the subject, watashi, ringo being the object, apple, and taberu being the verb, eat. So that's the most basic way of explaining how the grammar works. And obviously there are more complicated things and more complicated grammatical constructions and things like, I don't know. So it's more complicated than that, but that is the absolute basics of it. And basically the reason that people find it difficult is because it's backwards. But once you get the hang of that basic idea, it can kind of click for you. Fingers crossed, hopefully, eventually. Because all of the other grammar rules basically rely on the fact that it's this structure. Maybe. So that's my main advice, is just getting the hang of like the basic fact that it's a subject, object, verb language. こんにちは。ロンドンに住んでいますが寒すぎです。これがイギリスの夏なのでしょうか？寒いですね。そうですね。先月はちょっと暑かったんですが、今は寒くなりましたよね。イギリスの夏はだいたいこのように寒くなったり暑くなったりするんですが、これより暑い方がいいですよね。これから暑くなるといいですよね。祈ります。今度はカタカナの歌かしら。カタカナの歌は作らないと思います。こんばんは。Hello everyone. Good evening. 日本語を学ぶにどんな資源を使ったの？ The resources I used to learn Japanese were, so when I first started, I was learning basically kind of randomly online. So the thing is, it's so long ago that I find it hard to recommend things to people because a lot of the websites I was using don't exist anymore, or I don't remember what they are, so the thing is, when I was learning Japanese, I never used one thing. I didn't learn Japanese like with a certain textbook series or with a certain website or with a certain app or anything like that. I was just figuring it out as I went along, I guess. And each time that I came across something I didn't understand, I would Google it and try and find some website that explained it for me. And quite often that website was tofugu.com, which I really recommend. I'm going to put that in the chat. Tofugu.com. It's been around for years and years and years and years, but they have very, very clear explanations of grammar points, and other just kind of aspects of the Japanese language. So I think that they can that website explains things really clearly if you're just like, I don't understand how this specific thing works. Other than that, I was learning new vocabulary by looking things up in the dictionary. When I didn't know a word, I was tweeting in Japanese and looking up words that I didn't know that I wanted to say. I was watching a lot of anime. I was watching a lot of Japanese TV shows and picking up words through that. You know, if I was watching an anime and I heard the same word over and over again, I would look it up and memorize that word. So I always find this a difficult question when people ask me what resources I used, because I used everything. And I have used Duolingo, I have used all of these different language learning apps, and obviously you've seen me make sponsored videos talking about language learning apps, and I think that a lot of them are brilliant. But personally, I think that the best way to learn a language is to use everything, use anything that's at your disposal. Buy books. If you know, people talk about what's the best textbook to learn Japanese, what's the best kanji book. I think that no matter what textbook you buy, you can learn something from it. And everyone learns differently. So no matter what people's reviews are, even if someone says this is a terrible textbook, I mean, maybe if everyone says it's a terrible textbook, maybe don't get that one. But if some people say it's a terrible textbook, it can still be useful for you because everyone is different. And even a really awful textbook that teaches in a wishy-washy or weird way might still have vocabulary in it that you've never seen before and will introduce something new to you. I just think you should, rather than worrying about how to learn a language, you should just do it. You should just look at what you have, look at what's available for you, look at every resource that is available for you and see what works for you, rather than spending a really long time judging what might or might not be the best method. I think it's better to just dive in and figure it out by giving it a go. 現在のレベルに到達するのはどのくらい時間がかかりましたか？もう10年間ぐらい勉強しています。11年ぐらい。I've been studying since I was 12 or 13 and I'm 24 now, so I've been studying for more than 10 years at this point. Are you learning another language or just focusing on Japanese for the moment? At the moment, I'm only studying on Japanese, and even then, outside of my Japanese lessons, I'm not really studying. I'm, watching Japanese programs, I'm reading some things in Japanese, but I'm not really actively studying. My other languages I know, I really at some point would like to go back to them. So I used to know, I kind of still know Latin, which kind of doesn't count, and French and German and Korean for a little bit. Those are all kind of in the back of my mind on rest mode, in dormant mode, and one day I would really like to bring them back. But for the moment, I am just focusing on Japanese. 日本語で一番好きな言葉は何ですか？これすごくよく聞かれる質問なんですが、なんだろう、好きな日本語。I used to always answer なんかよく答えるのは日々標準。でもそれはお友達の好きな日本語。日々標準。あとなんだろう。何がいいかな。好きな日本語は今のところは特にないです。全部好きですから。特に好きな日本語はないです。おはようございます。Particles. I think you should look at particles on tofugu.com, that message that I put earlier up, because that link that I posted, because tofugu.com has a really, really good explanation of every single particle, because it's too much for me to explain here and I would get all confused, because it's kind of, it's kind of hard to, 標準、はい、ごめんなさい。日々標準って言っちゃいましたが、日々標準、ごめんなさい。日々標準。But yes, I recommend you look up particles on tofugu.com. Because the thing is, I think that I really discovered this when I was doing my part-time job of teaching beginners Japanese to those people with that charity or organization. Obviously I've only been learning Japanese for 10, 12 years. And it sounds like a long time, but it's kind of hard to take yourself back to the basics and think of the best way to explain things to people, because after a certain time you absorb the basics and think that they they're kind of more, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's harder to explain how you did it a long time ago. 自分の母語以外の言語のスピーキング力はどうすれば効果的に伸びるのでしょうか？アドバイスあれば教えてほしいです。私の一番よく言うアドバイスは、独り言すればいいと思います。私はとてもよく、一人で日本語で話します。で、若い頃も日本語初めて勉強していた時も、すごい毎日一人の時は日本語で独り言をしていました。で、独り言は、YouTuber だったんですが、YouTuber ごっことかしていました。で、ちょっと自分で恥ずかしいかもしれませんが、すごいお勧めします。自分でなんかシャワー浴びている時とか、お風呂入っている時とか、部屋を掃除している時とか、自分で勉強している言語でやっていることを全部説明します。YouTuber のように。で、そうすればすごい自分のなんか、この言葉知らないなとすごい気づきますし、で、それ以外に、私はちゃんと YouTuber やっていますが、YouTuber やりたいと思わなくても、自分のスピーキングを動画にすればすごい役に立つと思います。私は YouTuber やっているから、自分の日本語にすごくよく聞いていますので、そのピッチアクセントとか、ごめんなさい。ピッチアクセントとか、発音とか、すごい、編集しているときはすごく、聞きますので、間違っているところに気づきますので、動画を撮ることをお勧めします。Okay, I'm just calling back up. Have you taken your JLPT? I'm taking JLPT 5 soon. Yes, I've taken JLPT 1. Good luck with your JLPT 5. You'll be wonderful. Stephen, thank you so much for the nice compliment. Anthony, I'm so sad because my Japanese mother didn't talk to me in Japanese when I was a child because she wanted to practice her French. But today I learned it myself. Et bonsoir et merci pour vos vidéos. That's a shame, but you can learn it now. Did you study Japanese on your own until you went to university? Yes, from the age of, I never know what age to say I started, what age I started that. Because I was watching Japanese anime and stuff when I was about 10. And then maybe it wasn't until I was about 12 that I decided to actively study, but already by then I'd kind of picked up a bunch of stuff from watching so much anime. But yes, I studied by myself for my whole teenagerhood, apart from a moment when I did have a tutor for a little bit because I wanted to do the GCSE exam when I was 15. So I had a tutor for a few weeks then, which actually really, really helped me. It was only like an hour a week for a couple of weeks, but she really, really helped me. And I need to say, I say I taught myself, but she seriously helped me. So I can't give myself all of the credit. But basically, apart from those few weeks, I did teach myself until I started university at age 18. Any resources or tips on learning the 240 kanji radicals? So I've never actively tried to study the kanji radicals, really, but whenever I look up kanji, I do it using the radical input method on my Imiwa app. So I look at a kanji and in order to look up that kanji, I have to be able to visually break it down into radicals. And obviously that was difficult at the beginning, figuring out what bits are what. But I think that's a very good practical way of learning, is just looking up kanji using radical lookup method on an app. I recommend. こんにちは。おはようございます。日々精進の英訳は improving everything in everyday でいいでしょうか？いいと思います。improving a little bit every day とかかな。I'm going to be studying Japanese at uni in September and I'm so nervous. How do you think I should prepare? Hi, Chloe. I think that you Shouldn't be nervous because when you start learning Japanese at university, it's basically new for everyone. Even the people who've learned Japanese before, most people have never learned it in a classroom environment. There's going to be very, very few people who've had the opportunity to learn Japanese in school. So don't be nervous. It will be wonderful. You'll have a great time and learn so much. I think you should prepare. I mean, I don't know your level, but if you're an absolute beginner, I recommend really trying to get to grips with hiragana and katakana before you go, because it will make things so much easier if you can read just those alphabets fluently. And yeah, I would prepare by watching tons and tons of anime, watch tons and tons of Japanese TV, watch as much as you can, and listen carefully and pick up as much as you can. Try your best to listen to the words they're saying, but still enjoy it, because when you're at uni, you might not have as much time to watch lots and lots of Japanese things in your spare time, or you might be so sick of learning Japanese all the way through the day that you won't feel like watching Japanese things in the evening. So I think that that's a good way of preparing, is just enjoy Japanese, get yourself excited, get excited for Japanese. I'm really happy for you and excited for you, and good luck. I bought a big whiteboard so that anytime I'm doing exercise or anything, I read the kanjis I wrote, and it's working super well. That's a really good method, writing them and sticking them around. I used to write all of my kanji on post-it notes and stick them all around me. 趣味はありますか？私の趣味は乗馬です。乗馬。馬を乗ること。馬に乗ること。riding horses。で、最近はしていませんが、今オックスフォードにいるので乗馬できませんが、今夏休みなのでそろそろ、ダラム、地元に帰りますので、そこで乗馬できますので、楽しみにしています。Let's say I do an exchange semester. Can I survive without language skills? If you mean to Japan, it depends where in Japan you go. If you go to Tokyo, you can absolutely survive without language skills. If you go to any big city, you probably can survive in Japan without any language skills if you are making friends with foreigners, other exchange students or other foreigners living there. But if you go to the countryside, you will need Japanese. And of course, even if you go to Tokyo, I recommend learning some Japanese. You'll have a much richer and more fun experience, I think. If you can understand the language, you can meet more people, you can have more interesting conversations with more interesting, well, not more interesting people, but different people, if you can learn the language. But don't get stressed. You can absolutely go to Japan with no Japanese and pick it up when you get there, depending on the kind of person you are, I suppose. But if you're outgoing and up for the challenge, I'm sure you can pick up Japanese. もちもち使っています。来週 TOEIC ありますから、その準備に英単語を勉強しています。TOEIC 頑張ってください。もちもち使ってくださってありがとうございます。ライブはいいですね。近くに感じますね。はい。なんかすごい久しぶりにしていますが、何年ぶりかな何年ぶりかわかりませんが、なぜかその気になりました。I've just finished my Japanese degree. Congratulations. Oh my goodness. Congratulations. You're free. You've done it. 日本人の友達は日本語を日本人の友達は日本語を日本語を勉強し始めてからどれくらいでできましたか？今アメリカに住んで3ヶ月ですが、まだ英語が話せる友達もできません。私は留学していた時は結構長い、2016年の9月、10月かな、神戸に引っ越して、で、多分2月まで、2017年の2月まで友達は全然作りませんでした。で、難しいですよね。なんか、神戸に留学した時は、日本の学年は3月始まりますよね。でも、イギリスの学年は10月始まりますので、神戸大学に着いた時はもう学年半分がもう終わっちゃって、 サークルに入りませんでしたし、なんか、その大学の学生さんはほとんど英語で話したい人でしたし、結構友達作るの難しかったんですが、お酒飲めるようになった後、あの、留学したと留学した時は19歳でしたよね。で、20歳になったら、えもっと友達増えました。あの、アメリカはどうか分かりませんが、アメリカはちょっとこれお勧めできるかどうか分かりませんが、日本もすごく安全ですよね。だから日本で毎回同じ居酒屋に行って、その居酒屋によく行っている人たちと仲良くして、そうやってお友達作っていましたが、アメリカはあんまり一人で飲みに行けないと思いますし、どうかな、アメリカ文化そんなによくわかりませんが、あんまりなんか知らない人とお話ししないかもしれません。なんかバーとかで。だからアメリカだったら、サークルに入るとか、何かのローカルな、その住んでいる場所の、クラブ、サークルとか趣味見つけたらいいと思います。イギリスは今、あとちょっとで12時です。夜の。ダラムって何か有名な歴史とかありますかね？はい。ダラムにはカテドラルカティドラル大きい、教会大きい教会、カテドラル大聖堂あります。そうですね。ダラムの歴史あまりわからないんですけど、結構多分キリスト教ではダラムは結構、有名な場所だと思います。あと、そのカテドラルでは、ハリー・ポッター撮影されました。ハリー・ポッターの一部撮影されました。はなちゃん見ていると、私も英語の勉強をもっと頑張ろうという気になります。いつも動画をありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。Hi from Brazil. Hi Brazil. Hi Janina from Brazil. I'm planning to study Japanology in Switzerland, and I was told that foreign universities can't give you a decent degree. Do you think that's true in your own experience from your university? I don't agree with that because I think that, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know because I've never studied Japanology in Japan. Obviously, I did my year abroad in Kobe University, but there I was studying Japanese language and doing some random other like literature, like general literature, not even Japanese studies, like general literature options. So I don't really even know what Japanese studies is like in Japan. But I think, it depends on what bit of Japanese studies you're doing, Japanology you're doing, but I think it could be argued that studying it in a foreign university could give you an advantage of seeing Japan from a different perspective, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, I think that a lot of very famous and well-respected Japanologists did not study Japanese studies in a Japanese university. And I think that I'm sure if you study Japanese studies in Switzerland, you absolutely can get a decent degree that will be respected everywhere. So don't worry. I'm sure you'll be wonderful. 花さんみたいになりたい。ありがとうございます。私みたいにならなくてもいいです。アメリカでもホテルのバーは安全だから男なら一人でも大丈夫だよ。はい。そうですね。ホテルのバーなら一人で飲めますよね。なんか日本以外の国っていうか、イギリスでは一人で飲める場所は少ないですよね。ホテルのバーとか、ちょっとカフェっぽいバー、この間私は一人で飲みに行きました。オックスフォードではワインカフェっていうところがありまして、そこは 昼はカフェでコーヒーとかちゃんと売っていますし、夜はバーになっていて、すごいカフェみたいな雰囲気ありますから、全然一人で飲めます。で、一人で行って本読みました。2冊読みました、一人で。でも、そうですね、イギリスのパブとかは一人であまり行かないんですよね。日本の立ち飲み屋とかみたいな場所はありませんから。こんにちは、こんにちは。はい。おすすめの英語のドラマ、映画はありますか？最近私はアメリカの Desperate Housewives、チャットで書きますね。Desperate Housewives 見ています。アメリカのドラマで、2004年から2010年とかまでやっていて、ディズニープラスにあります。あとアマゾンにもあります。まあ、イギリスの、日本はわかりませんが、すごい楽しい、すごいドラマチックな、ドラマです。お勧めします。Thank you for always being an inspiration for me. You're welcome. Thank you for your advice. You're welcome. 起きたら配信やってて嬉しい。おはようございます。おはようございます。あ、デスパレートな妻たち。はい、多分それだと思います。日本でも知られてますか？私は最近すごく流行ってます。あの、うん、なんかアメリカのザ・アメリカって感じ。ザ・アメリカの主婦みたいなふい雰囲気がありまして、すごくちょっと古いっていうか、うーん、ちょっと古いかな。でも面白いです。お勧めします。I understand about 2% of what you're saying. Learning languages is hard. 2% is something, you're starting. Um, I'm sorry, I find it the thing with doing live streams is that I'm switching between English and Japanese, and so I'm not speaking easy English or easy Japanese. So it can make it difficult for people. But if you ever want to double check what I just said, then please ask me. 日本でもやってましたよ。NHK で深夜やってました。そうなんだ。まあ、それお勧めします。How did you practice your speaking skills? I was just talking about this in Japanese actually, but I my number one recommendation for practicing your speaking skills, if you don't know Japanese people to hang out with or people in the language you're learning, talk to yourself when you're by yourself. Have a little chat to yourself in Japanese. What I used to do is obviously I am a YouTuber and I'm making YouTube videos, but I used to pretend to be making a video whenever I was doing anything. So if I was doing my makeup, I would talk about my makeup in Japanese. If I was tidying my room, I would talk about my room in Japanese. If I was cooking, I would talk about my cooking in Japanese. And if I did that, then I would be like, oh, I don't know what this word is, and look it up. Or really have to think about how to explain something in Japanese. I found that's a really good way to challenge myself speaking when I'm alone. I also, obviously I am a YouTuber and I'm filming videos for YouTube. But even if you don't want to be a YouTuber and you don't want to post them anywhere, I really do recommend filming yourself speaking in the language you're learning and watching it over, because you can pick up on things that you wouldn't notice hearing it as it's coming out of your mouth. It's the same, when you watch a video of yourself speaking, even in your native language, you think, oh, do I really sound like that? Or, oh, why did I say that like that? Or, oh, why did I stumble over that word? Because, actually, making YouTube videos, I think, has improved my English as well, strangely, because I know that I slur my words quite often. But making videos, I think, has helped me to be a better speaker in English and in Japanese. So I really recommend making videos. Desperate で、これ、何でしたっけ？なんだっけ？調べます。Desperate。でも Desperate House、自暴自棄。Desperate Housewives の Desperate はちょっとどういう意味の Desperate かちょっとわかりません。なんかいろいろあってて、必死がいいかな。必死な主婦っ デスパレート、絶望的でも絶望しているわけでもないですよね。でも結構なんかいろいろあって、なんか毎回誰か、なんか殺人事故とかありまして、みんな結構必死。だから必死がいいかな。必死。Desperate Housewives 必死な主婦たちかな。Do you sometimes feel lonely studying Japanese about Japan in your country? I used to. When I was a teenager and I was studying Japanese alone, I felt a little bit lonely because I didn't have many friends who were interested in the same things apart from on Twitter. So I had tons of friends on Twitter who were helping me and who I could talk to about studying and hear about their thoughts and opinions and troubles, and that was really nice having Twitter friends and internet friends. But I did feel a bit lonely in my day-to-day life, in my real life, and at school I didn't have any friends. I had friends at school who were into anime and video games, but not really friends who were into learning Japanese. But now that I'm studying at a university, I really have a wonderful community in my department of my classmates and my teachers and my friends. And so I'm not lonely anymore. I used to be lonely, but not anymore at all. And you know, we have the internet now that you can find such a wonderful community of Japanologists online. So I really recommend having a look on Twitter to see if you can find people who are like you. こんにちは。なんとなく聞き取れた。よかったです。なんか私の英語は、英語圏の人に向いていると分かりにくいと思いますが、日本人に向いていると分かりやすいとよく言われます。どうかな、イギリス英語だからちょっと違いますかな。いつもよく聞く英語とは。Hi, I know it may be a silly question, but when you're speaking Japanese, do you think mostly in Japanese? Yes. I guess. So right now when I'm switching between the two, I get a bit confused and my Japanese doesn't come out as clearly because I'm trying to switch over. But then, you know, sometimes if I've been speaking Japanese all day, I've been thinking in Japanese all day and my Japanese comes out even, you know, sometimes more easily than switching back to English. The switching is difficult. So yes, when I'm in Japanese mode, I am thinking in Japanese, I think. And you know, sometimes even now, if I'm alone all day, sometimes and not speaking, sometimes I will think in Japanese a little bit. 英語わかんない。俺中1だけど英語苦手。頑張ってください。英語難しい。難しいと思います。本当。だからあんまり気にしなくても大丈夫。で、私の英語多分聞き取りにくいと思います。Hello, I was wondering what advice you might have for a teen who wants to do well studying Japanese in university. I have around 5 years until I go, so how do you think I should use your time? 5 years is wonderful. I think you should use your time to work well in school. So what I did is, I was really, really obsessed with Japanese when I was 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then I had exams. So in the UK, you have school exams when you're 16 and when you're 18. And they both kind of count towards your future and how you get into university. And so I don't know what country you're in or how it works, but if you have exams that are going to count towards what university you get into, I really recommend that you keep Japanese as your hobby and actually really work hard in school if you want to study Japanese in university, because not many universities offer Japanese. And so you want to make sure that you have the grades that will let you get into the university that you want to go to. And that's more important than your Japanese level, because you can totally start university with no Japanese at all and start a Japanese degree. So many of my friends started their degree at 18 and they didn't speak a word of Japanese and they just started and learned and now they're fluent. So when you're in school and a teenager and you know that's your dream, that's really, really good. And in your spare time, absolutely, like watch Japanese TV shows, study a bit if it's fun for you and it's something you love, that's great. But don't let it take over your actual school studies. So if you're asking me how to use your time, I think you should use most of your time on actually doing well at school. And, focus hard if you have other language classes, if you're learning Spanish or French or Latin or anything, work hard in those, because actually understanding how other languages work will help you when you're eventually learning Japanese in university. So good luck. I recommend that you work hard in school. I've been watching your videos for years now, and they've helped me imagine having a friend who also likes to learn Japanese. Thanks for helping with that. That's really, really sweet. Thank you so much. For me, the most difficult thing in Nihongo is to remember some of the characters at the time of writing them. I'm the same. It's difficult. And the only advice I have is to just keep writing, keep trying over and over again. And, if you get stuck on a word, if you get stuck on a character and you don't know how to write it, just look it up, just have a look and cheat. And eventually it'll get in there. 米語は聞き取りにくいですが、花ちゃんの英語は聞き取りやすいです。なんでかな？なんででしょう？日本語の英語。日本語のカタカナ語はだいたいもうちょっとアメリカ英語よりイギリス英語に聞こえるかな。例えば、カーとか、マイカーとか言うじゃないですか。マイカー。で、アメリカ英語のカーは car。R の発音、アメリカでは R の発音すごい激しくしますが、イギリス英語は R の発音、言葉によって違いますが、R の発音あんまりしないです。カーはそのままカーと言います。だから、イギリス英語の方が聞き取りやすいかな。でも私の英語は、イギリス英語なんですが、特に方言とか話してません。だから、イギリス英語の人で方言話している人だったら、多分アメリカ英語の方が聞き取りやすいと思います。方言のイギリス英語より。日本に高校生の時に来て、途中わからなかった。アクタースクールに通ってまではあった。俺も感じるけど、花さんの英語は聞き取りやすいし、文章もわかりやすく感じるよ。脳が日本人化してるのかな？そうかな？私は結構、イギリスはすごくたくさんの国の人が集まっているので、英語母語話者ではない人に話すのに慣れています。だからそういう意味で分かりやすくなったかな。聞き取りやすいけど、なんて言ってるかわからん。そうかな。発音、でもそれでもいいと思います。発音だけ聞き取れれば、その言ってることを後で調べれるから大丈夫かな。これね、聞き取りやすいけど、なんて言ってるかわからんっていうのは、私の日本語の好きなところ。日本人がどんなに難しいこと言っても、ゆっくり言ってくれば、後で検索できます。だって、日本語は言葉を聞けばスペルすぐわかりますよね。でも英語はゆっくり言ってもスペルわからないよね。それはすごい日本語のいいところだと思います。すっごいなまってる人なら難しいかもしれませんが、ほとんどの人はゆっくり言ってくれれば、後で検索できます。はい。あと少しで寝ると思います。ここはもう深夜です。でも皆さん来てくださってありがとうございます。Thank you for coming, everybody. I think I'm gonna go to bed because it's late. There's my bed. It's got my bag and my coat. Thank you for coming. This was fun. I don't know why I felt like doing it, but it was fun. はい、24時です。 はい。はい。生配信以上です。ありがとうございます。皆さん来てくださってありがとうございました。Thank you everyone. See you soon. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye. Bye. おやすみなさい。Have a good day. じゃあね。